have been you've been quite open about the brain that gives you the ability to write these songs, and that it comes with
mental
sometimes
illness,
bits that don't serve you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wonder, like, at what point did you know that there was something going on? Maybe you weren't able to handle things, or you were thinking in different directions to other people?
It's been such a journey for me. Like, I don't think there is one point. I remember being in high school and writing an English piece. It was kind of like write a creative story, and I wrote something like just like dark and sad. And my teacher, who I really admired, was like, great writing. Are you okay? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm fine. Like, I think I'm fine. But I think it's sort of, that's a point where I started recognizing maybe the depressive side of myself, and understanding that that was disconnected from maybe the way that other people were. And then as I got into the real world post high school and life, gets more confronting, I understood the anxiety layers more as well. But my family have a history of anxiety and depression, and that wasn't, unfamiliar in terms of talking about it, navigating it. But then in like the last few years, as I know like so many people have gone through, I started to understand ADHD, which I've also been diagnosed with now, but I never knew that that was a thing that was happening. And when that diagnosis came, I was understanding the roots of my like depression and anxiety more, because you don't have this full understanding of like what type of brain you have and why things are so hard. So we're talking like a 10-year time span of just kind of like trying to understand myself more deeply and why things are hard and how to navigate them. And I do that a lot through music. So it's not always a conscious thing. It's just been like a journey.
It sounds to me, though, that you're very curious about what's going on in your head, and you want to unpack, not saying that the patterns, but maybe the dance steps, the routine that your brain can kind of go through to help identify what kind of day it might be and things you might be able to do. What would you say to people about just kind of taking the time to learn about how your brain works and the difference between your amygdala and your other things?
Well, I would say there's so much reward in trying to understand the messages from your body and your mind. So much of what goes on around us is encouraging us to be distracted from it and kind of avoid it. Or we don't get, at least I didn't, we don't get that much of an emotional education, how to tune into your body. And I look back at my more anxious younger self. I'm still someone who struggles with those things, but like if I was anxious, I would go bright red in the face. I'd be fully shaking. I wouldn't have control over my voice. Like singing has helped so much with that, but there's so many things that I've just been able to slowly kind of release, and it's helped me enjoy my life more and like love myself more. So I'd say like if those things sound exciting, then for me, just kind of a slow and gentle and compassionate education on like mental well-being and the body has been massive. And in the last few years, a lot of it has actually been about getting out of my head and into my body. Like I've never been a physical sporty person. I've always been so in my head. And then, one of the breakthroughs I've had is like, just run, just dance, just do, the meditation, do the breathing, tap yourself, shake yourself. Like you don't actually have to think your way out of it. Go into nature. There are so many answers there. So that's been really nice, is to kind of eventually like break out of this idea that I have to solve it all myself and I'm going to think my way into the understanding. It's like, it's kind of been a relief to let go of that as well.
Yeah, I say it quite often. Like you can't use a brain that's in trouble to think your way out of trouble.
Nah,
It's the same
I've
brain can't
tried.
do both.
Yeah. Nah, because it's connected to everything else. But
Yeah,
that's been a big one. Do you have like a favorite physical or like somatic kind of practice for when you're feeling that way?
Oh, breathing's a biggie for me because
Yeah.
I'm often on the mic or I'm on camera
Yeah.
when these things can show up. And back when I was doing Australian Idol in the 2000s, I was learning things to do. That was kind of before I'd really been prescribed before I'd taken it kind of seriously, I'd been told you really need to get on antidepressants. And I was like, thanks very much. I'll just have a beer. And then my doctor yelled at me, which was right for him to do. But I was like, thanks very much. I think I know better than you.
Yeah, I'll have a beer.
4 years later, here I am going, keep coming back. It works.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, even back then, like I would do things like, from like season 2, season 3, I would put exorbitant purple nail polish on my toenails. And so, coming back out of a break, 5, 4, 3, like 600 people in the room, jib shots flying across the audience, and we're inside the 10 count, and I've taken a breath in, and I'm like, only me and one other person knows that I have shiny purple toenail polish, and I could feel them in my socks.
I love that.
And then bang, and I've wiggled my toes a little bit.
That's so nice.
And here we are.
Wow.
And then we're back. And that was like one thing that I would do, but it's a lot of breathing. It's a lot of breathing, a lot of physiological sigh. I do a lot of polyvagal breathing.
Yeah.
Which is double the exhale for the inhale.
Yeah.
Essentially. So 3 in, 6 out, or 4 in, 8 out. I do a lot of that.
I love that.
I do a lot of. I do it with Wolfie when he's trying to get to sleep.
I think that's great. The younger you teach that kind of skill, like it's so amazing.
Sometimes I'll dance it out. I've been in like fucking bad times, and
yeah,
I'll just throw on the Bluetooth speaker and just put on some music, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's like, might as well dance. And I'm a terrible dancer.
Doesn't matter. We're meant to dance. We're meant to like release and be free.
Yeah, we're really similar. Exercise is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I don't train, it's I know it.
Yeah, it's pretty confronting, like understanding that message that I've been getting all my life, just do some exercise, is actually so important. I haven't ever but like my physical appearance and my body hasn't like troubled me that much over the course of my life, and so I haven't been like, I guess, motivated to exercise because I just kind of don't think about it. But then
because we have for so long equated exercise with an aesthetic outcome.
Exactly. And so I was kind of like, I don't need to do that. I don't care. But actually, it's not about that.
It's not. There are entire mechanisms in your body that simply do not switch on if you do not put yourself under a certain amount of physical stress, is the word.
Yeah.
Or an amount of physical discomfort.
Yeah, it's life-changing.
There are hormonal releases that only happen when we put ourselves in those places. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but if you do it, what happens inside your body and what happens inside your brain, it's just profound.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's insane. Do you know about the window of tolerance? Are you familiar with that?
I'm very familiar with the window of tolerance.
Yeah.
Would you please tell me about the window of tolerance?
Oh, well, you know about it. But
No. For the people listening, I'm kind of wondering, like, should I play some music while you describe the window of tolerance?
I'm scared that my description is going to be like incorrect. So maybe
just take me through the window
you
of
can
tolerance.
Always delete this later. I had a conversation with a counselor, which was really life-changing. Before I got diagnosed with ADHD, she explained, yes, you might have that. I'm not the person who's going to diagnose you, but you're obviously really struggling, and I'm going to teach you about this visual. And it completely changed everything for me, because at the time I was feeling perpetually unable to make decisions. My brain wasn't working. I felt like I couldn't remember anything. I felt like I wasn't laughing anymore. I didn't necessarily feel depressed, but I felt like fully just like stupid. Like I felt like nothing was working. And then she introduces this like drawing. She's like, draw a square in your notebook, like while we're talking, and imagine that that's your window. When you're inside this window, you are your calm, collected self. You're the most you that you're going to feel. Your laugh sounds the way it sounds when you're around your close friends and family, and you have the ability to regulate yourself if you experience something a bit stressful, and you can, make a decision and blah, blah, blah. You feel relaxed. And everyone has this window, and everyone leaves the window. And when you leave the window, and I can't remember, maybe you know the names, but above the window is like the anxious area, and below the window is the depressed area. But they actually have like hypoarousal and hyperarousal, I think, are the names. But you can actually be perpetually outside of the window if you haven't like been able to get back inside. And through COVID, a lot of people's windows shrunk, and so it was harder to get inside. And when you're outside the window, you're experiencing those things. make decisions. You are really struggling to regulate yourself. You're highly emotional. You're confused. You're distracted. You might be, like depressed and experiencing all the things that comes with that. And to get back inside the window, there are certain things that you can do, like, and then there's this whole like great list of things that you can do, like if cold showers, warm showers, push against something hard, pull against something hard, depending on whereabouts you are. Talk to a friend. There's all this stuff. And if you are wanting to expand your window, you do those things that are helping you get a bit more used to being uncomfortable, like cold water therapy is one, like hardcore exercise, but there's a bunch of them. And it just like, it made me feel so much better to know that there was a place that I wasn't in, but that's my place. And it's okay to not be in there. And there are ways to get back inside, because I didn't really have this organized visual of it. I just felt like I'm wrong now and everything's wrong now. And I don't know how to get back to the center. And she was like, this is what the center looks like. And it's actually quite easy to get back in there. And you can also work on making it more familiar for yourself to move in and out of the center. And I was just like, I cannot believe I'm 27 and no one's ever explained this to me.
No, and why? Like, I exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled if someone is younger than 27 listening to this right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know that shit until 5 years ago.
Life-changing.
And I'm 50.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The way it was explained to me was a sash window, like that you would slide up to open and close like that. And because that, and what did my person say to me? It was, oh yeah, the air coming in is, if you've got enough breeze coming in, then you can handle stuff.
Nice.
But the more you're not looking after and the more stressed you get, the more situations are, it gets slower and lower and lower. And you find yourself kind of like sucking at the air like a fucking scuba diver with a dry tank. And you're constantly unable to handle shit because you have no access to the thing that allows you to deal with stuff rationally. But to push the window open again, there's all these things you can do.
Cool.
Open
I really like that.
And then you let more of that breeze in.
Okay, I love that visual too.
Well, but they both work.
Yeah.
Yours is, I'm stuck outside the window. I can't get back over to it.
Right. But the sensation of the breeze is very like, especially if you're feeling real stress.
And what you described is, and I know this isn't true for everyone. It certainly wasn't true for me at one point, and that I was so ill, actually needed medication to get me back to this state.
Totally.
But for the vast majority of people who are out of regulation, all the stuff you need to get back in is actually within your own body.
100%.
There's a few things you can do to restore yourself.
Yeah.
You actually need something external.
Yeah.
Your phone, porn, gambling, whatever, drugs, alcohol, people.
Yeah, totally.
You can get yourself back in there.
Yeah.
And it's not what you think, and it's free because it's within you.
It's within you, and it's like, I mean, this is where my mind started being blown open. It happens in nature all the time. It's these like incredible things that we're born with, that when you are practicing them and learning those skills, you also are instilling like this deeper confidence and trust in yourself, and which just opens up so much more capacity for dealing with life, because you are understanding like, oh, I actually don't need beer, whatever it is. Like, yeah, love it.
It's a goodie. But look, we may as well talk about it. Beer, it's right there.
It's right there.
It's right there. And it's no one's got there's a place in some parts of the city on every corner where it is perfect. People might give you a bit of a hey when you go in there at 10 in the morning, but you can if you want.
It's the most normalized drug addiction that we have, maybe aside from coffee. And like, there's a whole culture around it here and all over the world, but it just seems so strange to me that there are like other things that seem so weird to people, like breath work. There's this whole part of the, society that is just like, that's not for me, but we'll just like drink away, our problems. And that's how we're led. That's how we're raised. Like that's a coping mechanism that is handed to you before you're 18. But yeah, it's scary to think how normal it is.
What was your relationship with alcohol when you were first kind of in the outside world, as you mentioned, when you're first getting out of school, when you're still kind of, as you mentioned, going a bit red in the face and having these anxious responses?
Yeah, totally. Definitely used it to cope for the first few years of being a performer, for example. Like getting on stage was something that did build my confidence over time, but particularly if I was feeling anxious that day, I was drinking my way in. And I'm a lightweight, as they say, and I was never kind of heavily binge drinking. I say never, obviously, like, we've all had those days, but I don't remember being able to do this thing that I loved without drinking. Like it is so tied into the industry. You get free booze every gig that you play. So that was just like, that was like water. And then at the same time, away from music, I've never been a big drinker. My dad drinks almost no alcohol. And like I said, he's told me all of our lives that we've had a history of, addiction and depression in our family. And so we've kind of had a great role model in him
Good
too.
of him to mention that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's
a lot of people don't know that.
It's life destroying. We've got like an Irish Catholic family full of like farmer men who have, had hard times, and like he's seen it. And so we were definitely raised with an understanding that kept me careful. And I'm an anxious person, and I was always worried about like vomiting, for example. I don't like getting sick. So I wouldn't drink hard, but I'd drink often. And then in the last few years, I think pretty much as COVID happened and we weren't touring, in 2020, I drank so much. I drank more alcohol than I've ever drunk. Just kind of having this year of, leaning into slow life. And I just, after that year, I just realized that I probably didn't need to have it anymore much at all. And then I started taking ADHD medication. I stopped taking antidepressants. And I noticed that if I did drink alcohol the next day, I'd feel so depressed. And I was just like maybe becoming more aware of like how, like you say, how shit you feel the next day. I'd go into these shame spirals. I was living alone, and I was
there's no drinking like alone drinking.
No, well, I just didn't want to. Like, I realized that if I was alone, I wasn't having as much of a social anxiety, like stress response, and I wasn't really drinking. So I kind of was living this new life where I was like, oh, maybe the drinking is actually about my anxiety, and like starting to understand that. Then I started taking ADHD medication, and if I drank on that, the medication would stop working, and I would just crash, and I'd have to go home, and I wouldn't feel any of the high of alcohol. So that was actually really helpful, and now I don't drink at all. I'm just like, I'm not.
Was there a day? Did someone have a word?
No, I mean, I've experienced what you experienced, where I would really, really spiral afterwards, and I just kind of realized that I didn't want to do that to myself anymore. And last year I drank almost no alcohol. I kind of had a drink at my sister's wedding, which was like really fun. The next day I felt not great. I had a drink at Christmas. The next day I felt really bad. And then after Christmas, at the end of last year, I was like, I'm done. And I know that this year I'm not going to have any alcohol. So I'm going to do a whole year and then just see, like,
yeah.
But it's kind of easier to be like, I've made the decision. I don't ever have to think about it. I just don't want to feel like that anymore. It doesn't help me. It doesn't feel good. And I'm glad I arrived there. But there's been so many days of shame and so many days of like worrying about what I said. And yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. We just started touring again. Booze is everywhere again. Occasionally I want it because it's right there. But it's cool to get on stage and actually try and like connect with myself and the people in front of me, and not feel like I'm going to say something fucked up in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah. There's no greater intense rush than being completely clear and clean on a stage in front of 10, 20, 100, 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And working on having that emotion. You have these moments where you make eye contact. You see an expression, and you feel it, they feel it. Like, you can't get that.
And you remember it.
Mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you experienced this, but like I have also had a lot of thinking about like how it's a privilege to be on a stage, right? It's kind of like you have a literal platform, and you get to share, like community with people in this big moment. And I just, especially when that was taken away for a couple of years, I really didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to like cause harm. I didn't want to come off stage thinking maybe I'd made someone uncomfortable or made something worse. I only wanted to be up there if it was at least with the intention and the conscious like thought to help. And that just didn't feel related to alcohol anymore. Like that felt, yeah, like you say, like causing a barrier between people, not a connection. it's kind of easy for me to talk about it, but I don't think it's easy to make it happen. I just think it's really important to talk about because we're not in a society where many people are like, I mean, it's happening more, but like depends on what your environment is. Many people encourage it. And like I was talking to someone recently who's going to have a baby and they are not yet telling people that they're pregnant. And they were worried that, it'd be obvious because they're not drinking. And I was kind of like, that sucks. Like, why is it weird that you're not drinking? You know, like, why is that a problem?
I got lucky. I learned to drink in Brisbane.
Yeah.
I perfected it in Sydney as, my career then, kind of expanded. And then I realized that I had a problem when I got to Los Angeles. And I was the only person cracking a can at noon on a Saturday.
LA, yeah.
I'm waiting.
Clean living
I'm
LA.
waiting till noon.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm not horrible. And it was an actress. It was quite prominent. I won't say her name, but she said, "Great joke. It's like you don't realize you got a drinking problem until you leave Australia." And she's right. You once you get out of this culture of normalization of just binge drinking fucked up behavior and how damaging it is, and like top night, you look around and be like, oh, I'm the only one who's being this. Oh dear.
Do you know what's interesting about LA is like there's so many things set up to help people live in like this kind of healthy way. It's so like protect your body, protect your youth, protect your well-being. There's that whole well-being industry, and that has its own like deep white people issues. But there's also like you can see the comparison with like the support that you're offered in Australia, particularly in a certain age group. If you were trying to start thinking about it, it's like, where do you turn? Like, who's going to help you? It's not very readily available.
You said that singing and being on stage helped you a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think it was almost like an exposure therapy to get on stage?
I think so. Yeah. I think for sure it built my confidence, and I have never thought too deeply about it. I just know that I'm so grateful for the advice that I got, which again I think is probably from my dad and definitely like one of his friends in music, to just play as many gigs as you can when you're starting out. I didn't really know what to do with myself starting out. Like, I have this dream, I want to do it, and it was just play as many gigs as you can, and I did. And I feel so much more comfortable in my body than I would if I, had gone the last 10 years without being on stage. You're in front of so many eyes. I often think it's like if you were like a little animal in the jungle and a tiger was staring at you, and like all the adrenaline in your body would just turn on and you stop thinking about the things that aren't important. And it's kind of it's kind of exposure therapy in that way. I think you get all this adrenaline in your body and it's so addictive, and I've always loved it. So definitely the love for it just kind of overpowered maybe the fear of being seen. It's still hard to be perceived sometimes, and like I find some, interviews and like marketing and promoting myself, I find that stuff hard, but the actual the being on stage just feels quite natural at this point, and it's really fun. So I'm really grateful for that.
Was there a point where you noticed that things felt different on stage? You're like, oh, maybe when I first started getting up here and I'd play 2 songs or whatever, I'd be shitting myself for the whole 8 minutes. And, you start to play longer sets, and then you shit yourself for the first couple of songs, and then, towards the end it's better. And then you get off stage and go, actually, that one was kind of good.
Yeah. I don't remember. I started out in a soul band. I was dancing around in short dresses and I wasn't holding an instrument. And that, wasn't particularly natural, but it was still really good training for me.
Covers?
Kind of. Like, we did some covers, and we had like a horn section. It was friends of mine. There was 9 of us.
Man,
and
talk about making no money.
Yeah, that was literally no money in it.
Bootsy Collins said, if you play funk, you starve.
Yeah. I don't know if it was even funk. It was like white people funk. But we were...
Hey, man, have you heard Average White Band? They're shit hot. Come on.
Average White Band. That was us.
Pick Up the Pieces is a fucking jam. I don't care who you are.
That's nice.
Dr. Dre sampled Michael McDonald. Dr. Dre sampled Michael McDonald, I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
For Warren G's Nate Dogg's Regulate.
Oh,
so
cool.
If Dr. Dre gives white people soul the seal of approval, then
yeah,
there
but
it is.
Sampling it, turning it into something.
Hey man, have you heard
Look, if he was inspired, that's great.
Not in love anymore. It's a fucking jam.
I need to listen to it.
Ex-Doobie, he played in the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sick.
Okay.
So what kind of? Give me an idea. Like, what kind of tracks were you playing?
Well, the covers that we did included Valerie and Shut Up by the Black Eyed Peas, I want to say. And like was it California Dreaming? Yeah, I can't remember. But it was a nice collaboration, like songwriting experience. Like we did a bunch of originals. We had like an EP, and that was kind of how I started with the gig scene, and just being confident enough to like write lyrics that I would sing in front of people. For example, there's a horn section, so people probably can't really hear the lyrics, and so I was just kind of like, no one really cares what I'm singing, and then, that was like a nice way to just forget that it matters, and to like stop taking it so seriously. Like it wasn't a super serious scenario, and I think that really helped with. Then when I went on to do solo stuff, it was a nice reminder that like it's not the end of the world if this isn't great. Just do it. You want to do it. You want to be Adele? Get on stage. It's kind of like just write something, see if people like it. But I don't know. I really struggle with confidence sometimes as well still, but it isn't so much of a thing on stage. It's sort of, that I've done it enough times that, it feels safer than plenty of other places.
Yeah, fair.
You're in control.
Yeah.
Like in the real world, I'm not so confident all the time. I'm not so in control.
You and I think you're not alone there.
Yeah, probably.
In that,
profound.
For me, my initial relationship to being on stage was one of, I know what's happening. I get to say what's happening. You're all quiet and I'm talking.
Totally. Yeah.
Since readdressed my relationship
to
my work. But I totally understand that.
Yeah. You lock in, like the adrenaline kind of like gives you something to do. You have this time frame where you are going to respond to exactly what's in front of you. And that doesn't happen necessarily when you're not in that position.
This is true. Yeah. At what point did you understand that when your solo stuff started to move? At what point did you, because you when you play gigs, you're on a bill with 4 or 5 other people.
Yeah.
At what point did you notice that you started to pull away from the kind of cohort of contemporaries that you were playing gigs with?
You mean as a solo artist?
Yeah.
I think I felt really lucky to kind of find some people to work with who were teaching me and working with me on like marketing and releasing music. And I think that felt like a big privilege, because not everyone has access to those opportunities, and that I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own because I don't understand very much, and I understood even less about business and marketing. So that felt like a big part of it. But when I was lucky enough to be playing shows that, like a lot of people were coming to, I felt really connected to the crowd, and I felt like that was about the people who had come for whatever reason and were listening. And I just realized that I love singing, and I'm glad that I've been doing it for so many years that it feels like natural to do it. And I love just like singing quite honest things about my life and having someone else be like, I feel that too.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I don't feel like I'm top shit. I just feel like I've landed in a place that feels natural and true, and it encourages me to be natural and true. Like it's sort of a really nice magnet.
In this, I think authenticity really is.
Yeah.
Authenticity has really truly become such a currency. We've seen
it's a guiding light.
It is.
It's like you don't know where to go. Like what is actually.
Yeah. And that's really it.
Mm.
There's plenty of songs about falling in love. There's plenty of songs about breaking up.
Mm.
There's plenty of songs about being lonely. There's plenty of songs about I just need some quiet time. There's not really that many songs about I'm not taking my meds anymore.
Yeah.
Which you touched on, and I'm someone that I have been on and off meds. I'm currently on.
Yeah, cool.
I was doing so well that I was off everything, and then as Audrey got quite close to giving birth to Wolfgang, it was very clear that I wasn't coping. And the other day I have like, you got to have a routine in the morning, otherwise I forget to do shit. And I forgot to take my ADHD meds, and got to like 1:30 in the afternoon. I was like, how come I've done like 2 things on my list? And I've been in this room typing and shit for 5 hours. What the oh, fuck. And that's how I managed to live my entire life.
Yeah.
I was like, how did I do it?
Yeah.
So I know what it's like if I'm yet to find a pathway away from medication. It might be down the track for me. I don't know. But right now, as much as I'd love to have my body make all the things I need to help me get through the day, at this point, I know it's better that I don't, certainly for people around me. What was your experience like of medication and the choice to move away from it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I am so open to, like you say, kind of being back in like a medication space. I kind of am finding at the moment, for the last while, I haven't needed it, or I've operated in a way that felt more natural without it. But I also have days where I'm like, maybe I should think about antidepressants again. And I haven't, gone through the next door of that yet. But like I said, I'd never been a person who did exercise until I was on antidepressants. I suddenly saw myself be that person. I was like, oh, I can be a person who does exercise. And I guess I felt like I had evidence that I could do that. And so once I was my antidepressants, I still felt like I could keep that up. And that was really like powerful. I never would have, figured that out for myself without the medication. And then there's times in my life where I'm not good at exercise, and it becomes pretty evident that like I might need that support again, you know. And with the ADHD meds, like I'm not taking them all the time at the moment. I take them when I need them. I was taking them every day for a year or so, but I found that my body was reacting really sensitively to them. Like it was making me quite tense because it's such a stimulant and I'm quite sensitive. And so again, I was just kind of like, I think I'm just going to pause this for a little while, but I still take them if I need them.
You talk to your doctor about that?
Yeah. They kind of say like, if that's what works for you, then, just see how you go.
I asked that only because I've been on that you just can't stop.
I think it probably depends what
takes
what
time.
you're on.
So I would just to talk about just because of duty. People might be listening to this going, "Hey, this is a really good idea."
When I was taking it for a year, if I stopped for a day, I would have an absolute meltdown. Like I would completely melt down, and then I kind of now, if I do take it, it's just like it's a boost, and I don't miss it. My body doesn't miss it so much the days after. But when I was taking it consistently, and then I stop on a Sunday, I was fucked.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I depend on this now, which is fine. But at the moment, touring actually helps because you have this kind of really consistent schedule and the adrenaline is all the time. And that kind of acts as, medication. But when I'm not touring really hard.
Yeah.
There's another book. I'm trying to remember the name of it. One is called How to Do the Work. And I learned about the subconscious mind through that. And the other one was an alcohol book. It taught me something that I had never understood. And maybe everyone knows this, but I never knew this. So if you think of the conscious mind and the subconscious mind as like one being above the line and one being below the line, and you might decide consciously above the line, I'm going to quit booze, for example. I'm going to quit drugs, whatever it is. And then underneath the line, this whole ocean basically of subconscious that you actually have no control over. It's every memory you've ever built, every movie you've watched where alcohol is used for celebrating, every time you've used it as a coping mechanism, and that's like, stored itself in your body. All that stuff is happening under the water. You actually have no control over it. So you can say, I'm going to quit alcohol, and you can decide that for yourself, and you'll be like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, but in my head, the 1982 Manly Sea Eagles are scoring a massive try and then drinking 2 easy out of you.
Yeah.
Like in my brain, like
and
that's
you
what
don't
happens when you
even
celebrate.
know that memory is coming up, but that is like, there's all of these fish swimming around kind of sending to the top the message like time for you to have booze. And so you're up against the ocean basically. And I had this diagram in this book. I can't remember what the book's called. Anyway, someone gave it to me, and it was basically such a relief to understand that it's not your fault each time you fail at the promise that you made to yourself because of all this stuff happening in your subconscious mind. And so to work on the subconscious mind and to understand it more, like it involved, reading about psychology and trying to tune into every time I was saying something negative to myself, because the subconscious mind apparently like 80% of the time is saying negative shit to you and just trying to shut down everything that you everything that comes up in your head to protect you. It's like a safety mechanism, but it's trying to keep you in this box, and it will just keep slapping you in the face, basically. That's what your subconscious mind is doing. Mine was doing it all the time. And so you start trying to tune into it, and you're just kind of washing the dishes, and then you're like, hey, I just said something really horrible to myself. How often am I doing that? Like, so often. It turns out it's really overwhelming. And so the more that I tried to take time to like understand and learn about all the stuff that was happening under the water, the more I was able to be like kind to myself consciously and really slow. I think it's such slow work, and everything I've read about it says like, it takes time. You can't just solve this, and you're actually never going to, but you can keep inserting, I don't know, I think of it as like new, gentle, colorful fish into the water to like swim around with all the other stuff that's happening in there. And I think that's what medication does as well. I think it kind of like makes the water a bit clearer.
That's it.
And I think it kind of
It doesn't fix
relieve. No, it
You
doesn't, but
gotta
it's
still gotta do
less
the work.
it's less like
Yeah.
heavy and murky, and
Yeah.
it's about like building pathways that you're not worrying about above the surface. They're kind of like happening underneath. And like you say, like exercise does that, all the, chemicals do that in your body, whatever. But that was massive for me because I spend so much time in my body, and I thought that everything was my fault and my responsibility. And I didn't understand that, trauma and history and everything is informing so much of what I would end up doing automatically, like just on autopilot all the time. And so mindfulness practices and, like breath work, all this stuff, it's about learning how to forgive yourself for your failings and understand that that's human, and keep on inserting compassion into like the next moment, the next hour, the next day. That's what it's been about for me.
Sometimes you want to relax and just kind of look at the fish.
Yeah.
With the positive messages.
Yeah.
Sometimes those fish are a Missy Higgins song.
They're often a Missy Higgins song.
Yes. Here comes Angie. Your songs are somebody's fish right now too.
That's nice. That's really nice. Well, that's the reason to do the job, I think. It's become about that for me. I think music definitely, it's such a powerful part of the subconscious. Yeah, thanks for saying that.
It's true though.
That's really nice.
It's true.
Great t-shirt.
This one?
Yeah.
It's maroon.
It's nice.
I'm having to come to the grips. You wouldn't understand this being from Victoria, but I'm having to come to grips with the fact that my son will probably go for New South Wales in the state of origin.
Yeah, that means absolutely nothing to me, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, kids are unpredictable. Like, there may be some turn of events where if you don't push it, they actually end up choosing dad's cool alternative team.
Let me ask you, how cool do you think your parents are?
I think my dad's pretty cool.
Oh, get fucked. How long did it take you to do that? Do you think your dad was cool when you were a teenager?
I thought his taste in stuff was cool. Not always.
Yeah.
I was selective, but he influenced me. He informed my taste.
What was his racket?
Well, he played me Springsteen, who's my favorite artist.
Ah.
And still to this day, like, you get in the car with dad, he puts on Springsteen, like, too much. And I am a Springsteen fan, and he plays too much Springsteen. But he was just kind of giving me an education on things that are cool.
I remember being 28, 29, and someone pointed out to me, Springsteen was 24 when he put Born to Run together. And I was like,
yeah.
Like, you can't possibly compare yourself.
No, you can't.
That.
To Springsteen. Have you read his book?
No, not yet.
He's just a prodigy.
It's a great quote. It's like, there's very few things in life that make you feel like the first 12 seconds of Born to Run.
I haven't heard that. That's so good.
But it's true, though.
That is so true.
Those first 4 chords. Yeah. That big riff.
Yeah.
And the orchestra and the din, 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 the piano. Huge.
Anthem. Definition of anthem.
Totally. And 24
Yeah.
with the beret kind of thing. Flat hat. He had a flat hat.
Oh.
And he was, yeah. So that's cool. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I get a lot of my new music discoveries through Georgia.
That's cool.
Thankfully, she has extraordinary taste.
That is so good. It's hard to be young and have great taste when the algorithm is feeding you, only a certain type of thing sometimes.
This is I don't know, man.
That's cool. What's she, is there something that you discovered?
She's into this fantastic mix of kind of whatever's in the top 40 of Argentina.
Cool.
But yeah, I discovered Megan Thee Stallion through her.
Cool.
Right. And I discovered Cardi B through her.
Sick.
Lizzo,
Yeah.
Doja Cat. I discovered all those artists through her, which
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for.
That's
And she'll
awesome.
get in the car and play Fleetwood Mac. It's like, what?
Fleetwood Mac having a comeback.
How is this?
Yeah.
Oh, it was TikTok. It was a bloke on a skateboard with a cranberry juice
I
jar.
know. I was thinking that today.
Whoops.
Because I've loved Fleetwood Mac, again, like, via my parents, so for a long time. And then I was just thinking recently, like, the last year or two, they're so much more mainstream again than they were. And I was like, why don't I remember them being mainstream, like, a few years ago? Like, what changed? And then I remembered it was the skateboard guy.
Yeah.
It was just the skateboard guy.
Music discovery is so extraordinarily different now. I thought being in television was an unstable career choice.
I have also chosen an unstable career.
There couldn't be two industries that are... Music has been going through a huge amount of disruption for the last 20 years, but television could not, like, both those industries look nothing like they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, interesting. That is interesting to hear because I don't know much about the TV industry. Like, I don't have mates really in that world, but it makes a lot of sense to hear you say it. I can imagine there'd be a lot of change.
Artists have gone from giving the concert ticket away so people would buy the album, and now they give the music away for free so people will buy the concert ticket. And case in point, Audrey and G and I went to go see 50 Cent about a month ago. Motherfucker was on fucking fire. And the dollar is at... Because I think, been around the game for a long time. I think about the economics. And going to see big tours is like, hang on, this doesn't look like a music video. He's standing there on a milk crates and a fucking plank when I see the music video and it's like this humongous production because they just couldn't afford to bring it out here.
Yeah.
50 Cent had like 6 dancers, 3 backup guys, full band, the whole thing. And the dollars at 55 cents. Every single song was just massive produced production thing with choreography and pyro. It's like, fuck hell, man. But we're paying whatever, $300 for a ticket.
Yeah.
We got our dollar. We got our money's worth.
Yeah.
But you can only do that for so long.
Yeah. And it's expensive. I mean, because I'm in the industry, all I'm thinking when you list all those production things is I'm just like, that costs so much money.
Oh, mate.
Like, that is insane.
Tell me about it. I'm doing a show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival with 5 cast.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're bankrupt, I assume.
I am writing down a lot of stuff. Build a lot of things myself.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to DIY your way through.
I remember Guy Sebastian telling me, this big tour that he'd just been on. And he goes, I lost money on that.
Yeah.
He said, I've never, but I go on tour with I take my own sound system.
Oh.
Yeah, because he wants people to have an experience.
Yeah.
That will make sure they come back the next time he goes through town. But not a lot of people understand that.
Nah, it's really hard to... Well, you don't want to bring it up on stage. Like, you don't want to, promote the show and also be like, this is costing me so much money. Like, you don't want to... You want to create the experience from the beginning. And so you just you just do whatever you can.
Buy the merch, dude.
Yeah.
Buy the merch.
Yeah, the merch is... I mean, we can get into it, but I have a whole crisis about merch as well because I'm like, I'm contributing to the fast fashion economy. But, at the same time, I have a hat for you in my bag. But yeah, it's hard. Like, I mean, the records and stuff, it's good. But at the end of the day, like, I don't know, I've kind of landed in this place of I just feel really lucky to be doing it right now. And every time we play a show, and this is a Springsteen thing that's in his book, just trying to treat it like as if it is the last show we'll ever play. And find like the joy in it and the memories in it and like hope that we can keep doing it. But if we can't, you don't want to kill yourself doing it,
But it could be. And, that's the first person I heard say it. It's just a terrible thing about my life. And so I end up dropping names.
That's okay. It's your podcast. I think you probably
No, but it's also the work that I've done and the people I've chatted to.
Yeah, but I mean, I've never met you, but I would expect to hear some stories. Like, I've come to Osher's house. I want to hear some of the
Well,
goss.
it was Marsha Hines.
Oh, yeah. Of course you
Oh, honey, you're only as good as your last gig.
Oh, I love that.
Ooh.
Thanks, Marsha.
And she's true. She's right.
Yeah.
You're only as good as you. And even this is a woman at the time. She'd been touring non-stop since she was 16. And this is 20 years ago. She came here in the mid-70s. She was 16. Do the maths. She is ageless.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she would gig every weekend.
Mm.
She would do these gigantic shows. Mostly corporates, mad.
Mm.
You're only as good as your last gig, honey.
Yeah.
So she would bring it every fucking time.
Yeah.
And you got to, though.
Yeah.
You've got to.
It
Do you
makes
remember
sense.
how old you were when it wasn't, like, I don't know, was it sport that you first figured out you were kind of a bit better than other people? Was it dancing? Was it writing? Was it music that you're like, oh, everyone else isn't into this as I am?
It wasn't sport. It would have been music. I mean, I've always loved writing. Like, I was a real English nerd in class, but I was never a particularly good student. I don't know if I had a feeling that I was like better. I just felt like I knew the things that I liked doing more, which was kind of like thinking and writing. And then when we would listen to music in the car as kids, I was singing the loudest and I was singing the most and being the most annoying. And I've just found like so much catharsis in that. And so then I took that away from the car, away from my family, like into the back room, and kind of was singing just 'cause
Radio
it felt
songs or
good.
songs that your parents would put on?
Probably both. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was radio. Back then it was probably like downloading Maroon 5 off LimeWire. I mean, I can't really remember, but like
If you could see the earlier conversation
CDs.
about the disruption of the music industry, there
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Things have changed. Now
And like,
CDs.
a lot of people don't know that. It's just a moment there. The guy who started Spotify started LimeWire.
Ah, yeah.
And back end of Spotify looks extraordinarily similar to LimeWire, but with a subscription model put on top.
Interesting.
Like the way that the file structures work and the sharing
That's
works.
karma. That's so interesting.
Well,
We've done it to ourselves. We're
that's
like,
why
we can get this for free, and they're like, we can get this for free.
Yeah, you know who's going to get everything for free?
Yeah.
Artists and the listener. But now
Yeah.
we put ourselves in between it.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that's
music without
interesting.
malware. That's basically what it was at the time.
Oh, I didn't know
Full
that.
tilt, right?
Mm.
So you're downloading songs and you're listening to, was it Maroon 5?
I just mentioned Maroon 5 because that was one of the first things that I learned, like pop song on the piano, like She Will Be Loved
Oh yeah.
on piano. But Missy Higgins was like a really big, like The Sound of White. I met her last week.
Get out.
Yeah.
She's delightful.
It was really hard for me not to lose my mind in front of her, but that was a big influence.
What do you say to someone like that when you meet them?
Well, we were actually having a radio chat, so I was kind of extra careful with what I said because it was both in front of Missy Higgins and in front of a microphone. But
She was hosting a show.
she was doing, I mean, it'll come out in a couple of weeks. It was like a Double J radio guest hosting thing. Yeah. She just brought me in for a guest. She'd messaged me like a couple months ago saying, I really love your record. Wow. I nearly vomited and like fainted. I was actually listening to her again. Like The Sound of White was such a big part of my like regulating myself as a younger person that when my record came out last year and I was experiencing a lot of the, like imposter syndrome, anxiety as you do, I was walking around the streets singing Sound of White songs to myself, like headphones on, just kind of like returning to my safe place. And she messaged me and I was like, what is happening? And then, I met her last week, but I probably made a fool of myself. I don't know. She was so beautiful. I love her.
She's a delight.
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day, but
I know this is
there's
such
a
a nice
beach down
chat.
the road and you've grabbed a towel.
And it's hot in here. I'm sweating.
Yeah, man. It's summertime in Sydney and you've shown up in Melbourne pants.
Yeah, I know. We played laneway the last couple of days and it's been really hot. Really, really hot. And all I packed was long pants. Every show I'm like, is this heat stroke? Probably.
There's a Vinnie's up the road.
Is there? Maybe I'll go to Vinnie's.
They will give you, and it's the Vinnie's from this part of the city.
Yeah,
so Bronte
Beach Vinnie's. I think I'm going to stop by.
There's plenty of cool shit. Some of it from this very house.
Cool. I'm going to stop by Vinnie's.